Welcome back to another edition of the Tommy Dinos podcast. Today's guest, you know her from her work in the 1990 hit movie The Mummy, as well as being a globally successful supermodel from Venezuela. Today, she's here to talk about her incredible memoir titled Straight Walk, A Supermodel's Journey to Finding Her Truth. This is going to be a very raw, open, and honest conversation, and I cannot wait to share it with all of you. Now, let's go get it.
I'm pushing the limit. I'm pushing the limit. I'll take it as far as I can go. So let's go. Whoa.
All right, so I'm here with Patricia Velasquez. Patricia, thank you so much for being here. It's so great to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's nice to see you again, too.
Likewise, yeah. So as I was telling you before, I met you at a Comic-Con here in Houston, and you were so incredibly sweet. And, I saw that you wrote a book, which I have here, which we're going to talk about today. And asked you to be on the podcast, and you immediately said yes, and I was thrilled. I read the book, and it's incredible. So I know people, whenever they interview you, they always want to talk about The Mummy, which we won't talk about today, even though it was, a life-changing experience for you. However, in the book, you really mentioned it, I think, only one time, like literally in one sentence in the book. I think you just mentioned you were in it, so I'm kind of curious, since it was such a life-changing opportunity for you, why didn't you go more in-depth in your book about The Mummy?
I wish I had a more interesting answer other than when I decided to write the book. And first of all, thank you for what you said. We met in Houston, and you were so I don't know. I just really liked your energy. So
thank you.
That's it. Yeah,
it means a lot. Thank you. It means a lot.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to be able to chat. So yeah, when I started writing the book, I'm not a writer, right? So it was a really challenging process to write this book. So when I started writing it, I just wrote important moments of my life that led to what I wanted to do, which is I wanted to inspire one person to live their truth, whatever that truth might have been, by me telling you what my truth was, which is that I am gay. And so when I had all these stories, there were a lot of them were the Mummy stories, and also
Right.
The Mummy Returns, because there's a big part of my life and what that meant for me, even up until today. But then with the publisher and the editor, we just started, once everything was written, is this really feeding the purpose of what I'm trying to say? So
Okay.
if it didn't, then the story was out. And I have to tell you, many stories that I really thought were going to be in that book, they didn't end up making it because they weren't feeding the purpose. But who knows? Maybe in another book, write many more stories about the Mummy and the Mummy Returns.
So when did you decide to write the book? Because I know what I appreciated reading it was you were just so raw and open and honest throughout the entire book. When did you decide to do this, and what was the kind of reasoning that you decided to write the memoir?
A lot of people, as I started as a model, became a supermodel, then I turned into an actor. But as years went by, I was very successful. There was something inside of me that was feeling fake. That, here I am representing my communities and helping my family, but something inside just wasn't feeling right. At the time, I was living with my partner, and we decided to have a baby. My daughter was, I don't know, she was maybe 5, 6 years old. And I just felt I would just go home feeling fake. And I said, I just can't keep living my life like this. I have to be truthful, and I have to lead by example with my daughter. But I was very afraid. I was afraid that I was going to lose all my fans. My fans that had been with me for so many years. Here I am in the covers of magazines and Sports Illustrated and Victoria's Secret and movies like The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. And I thought, I'm going to lose all my supporters. So that was a big fear. But when I decided to just said, I have to not living, feeling like a fake, then I started writing the book. It took a couple years. And I have to tell you, when the book came out, not only I didn't lose any fans or any supporters, I gained a whole new community.
Right.
And that's why I try to say, if I can help just one person to live their truth, because especially nowadays, especially women, we become successful, but there are parts of us, and men too, there's this part of us that just not feeling right, but we're afraid to tell what we feel, who
Right.
we really are, because we feel guilty,
Right.
and if we feel that ungrateful, that we should be grateful for what we have.
Right.
And I finally gave myself permission. So if through my voice I can give you permission to give yourself permission, well, that means I, I'm doing the job correctly. Because at the end, we at the end, that's all that matters.
Right.
That
Right.
we
Yeah,
are
exactly
content and
right.
that we're living our truth. So as long as we're living our truth, then that's really a step to real happiness, to real joy.
As I read the book, I could, and you did such a great job of including the reader in your life. Like, I could feel the anxiety that you were feeling when you read it. Like, so
Yeah.
many stories, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, because I get anxiety sometimes. But as I was reading some of your stories, I could really I could really feel it here in the chest. And just to have the courage to write this story, I found remarkable. Number one, and number two, let me ask you this question: because of that fear that you talk about through the book of coming out and telling your mother, I think was the biggest obstacle, right? That I
Mhm.
gathered. What were you taught as at a young age about homosexuality? Were you taught that it was wrong? Were you taught to fear it, or what? Because I know the anxiety had to come from somewhere. So what were you
Yeah,
taught at
well,
a young age about that?
I grew up in a Hispanic society, so
Hmm.
obviously it's very Catholicism. It's very present in our families, in our communities, and homosexuality was not accepted. Not accepted. So I was afraid. I was afraid that I wasn't going to be accepted. That I was going to, yeah, and it was almost not spoken. It was
Hmm.
not something you talked about. It's something that it's a rule. It was a rule. So it was not just, and I'm glad you brought this up, because it was not just the pressure that I had from the fans, but also coming from the Hispanic community, very, very heavily Catholic. And yeah, that definitely played the biggest part of all. But I had an extraordinary response from my mom.
That's great.
So I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't want to give the book away too much
Right.
for you, who watching or reading. But
Right.
when it was my mom's response was remarkable.
Hmm.
Probably, besides my daughter being born, the most extraordinary moment of my life, and
Right.
obviously meeting my partner, that
Right.
my partner now.
And it was. And I encourage everyone to go out and read the book, because what she's talking, and I'm glad you decided not to go into detail about the experience of telling your mom what her response, but her response was incredible. And I mean, I got chills reading it, and the conversation you had. I mean, it really gave me chills. But I please read the book, because it really tears or really pulls in your heartstrings when you read about that moment with your mom, when you finally
Yeah.
told her, and the relief and everything. And it really did. It was incredible. What I gathered, something else I gathered from the book, was that your life, I think, really revolved around your mom, and uh, providing for her, and trying to, make a better life for her. And kind of along the way, along your journey, there are a lot of things that you did, that, might have, I guess we could say, maybe might have gone against your own values, your own moral values. But I think it's safe to say that it was more about survival and just trying to get you closer and closer to a place where you could be that provider finally for your mom. Is that
Mhm.
correct to assume?
Yeah, yeah. I think the main idea was always to help my mom and help
Right.
my family. I mean, growing up, there's this thing I used to say to my mom, 7 more flights, mommy, 7 more flights. And that's what I used to say to my mom as we are going up 15 flights of stairs in the Venezuelan heat, about 90 degrees. The elevators didn't work, and we were carrying these buckets of water, 5 pounds
Right.
on each arm. Legs will be hurting, my hands will be shaking. And I was asking myself, why do we have to go through this? I was only 10 years old. And I would just watch my mom silently. And I think that's when my certainty was born. Are
Mm.
you there? Ah, yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
So
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's when my certainty was born, in that desire of, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that I was going to help my family no matter what. And it's a big lesson for me in general. Every time I speak about, it doesn't matter, everything, every time we do something in life, you remember that you are not alone. Every action we take has a ripple effect,
Hmm.
whether it's your family, your community, or that person that might see something in you that you don't see in
Right.
yourself, or vice versa, or that person that might not see in themselves what you see in them. So always remember that every action ripples. And when the intention is an intention of that, of, yes, you're doing what you want to do for yourself, but the ripple effect of everything we do, it just changes everything, and things become possible,
Hmm.
because it's almost like you're helping the world, therefore the world helps you.
So talk about that word certainty, because I heard you talk about that in another interview. That's a very important word to you. So really kind of talk about your idea of certainty, and how you can kind of use it as a tool or a weapon in your own life. Because I know that's a really important word to you.
Yeah, but what is certainty? We'll have to start there. When I said that I was going up the stairs and carrying those buckets of water, and when that certainty was born, because I wanted to help my family so we can have food on the table, I asked, what is certainty? And is that unshakable belief? Is there inner purpose that keeps you going no matter how difficult the task or overwhelming the odds? Because it wasn't just water that I was carrying, it was hope. And that
Mm,
silent promise that I will help my family no matter what.
right.
And so that's kind of is what has shaped my life. And I love helping people finding their certainty, like asking you, when was the last time you stopped and you ask yourself if your choices reflect your own values
Mm,
or those of other people?
very good point.
And no wonder, because no wonder, I mean, the world is out loud. It's so full of pressures. I mean, we're pulled in every single direction. And no, every time, we have a list of the things that we want to do, the first thing we take off the list is the one thing we were supposed to do for ourselves.
Hmm.
How many times you go to the supermarket and you come back and you forgot to get the thing you needed for yourself? Or
Right.
you were gonna go to the gym and you didn't end up making it to the gym.
Right.
So, and what's happened, that pushed us away from who we are meant to be and living our truth. And so, what I would like to do is to help people finding their truth. Because when you are living in your truth, the choices you make are the right choices. And that's where real change happens.
And it kind of makes me think about the social media times that we live in now. You know, what would your advice
Mhm.
be to a young person who might be in your situation, and like you talked about, being pushed and pulled in every direction because everything we see on social media? What would be your advice to someone in your position, like I said, a young person who is having trouble finding that certainty and are looking outward to what they see on
Yeah,
social media and these influencers?
that's such a good question. The first thing I have to say is that I understand how difficult it is.
Hmm.
We all, I mean, it's really crazy when you're looking and just scrolling through social media, the amount of stuff that you can see and how it affects us. I mean, it affects us that we're older. Imagine, I see it with my daughter. You know,
Right.
when you're younger, how it really is. You're living the life. The first thing I would say is that what you're seeing out there is not real. And what do I mean by that? You're only posting things that are the cool things. No one's posting the reality. It's what they
Right.
want you to see. So just knowing that everyone has struggles. And then the second thing is it is an addiction. You know, we are all a part of it. But there are also some good elements to it. So if you feel that you can't stop scrolling, that it perhaps try to find some keywords to change that algorithm. Maybe type inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
maybe type funny, maybe type good things, maybe type those. So it slowly changes that algorithm to start showing you more things that are going to empower you rather than put you down. You are the one in control. And,
Right.
and, and the other thing is, look, I don't have an issue with AI. It's the way
Mm-hmm.
of the world now. How do we turn it into something that can really be positive, right? So the only way I believe that AI is not really truly going to take over us, because the mind can't process that many things that fast.
Right.
We're bombarded. That's what's taking a possession of us,
Mm-hmm.
is that bombarding of things. If the only tool that we have to really always be in control is to stop, is to take a moment where you say, I am not going to look at the phone for 30 minutes, not because I'm sleeping, because I am making a conscious choice of not looking at the phone. I
Right.
am going to do yoga. I am going to do, I don't know, play soccer, whatever it is, some sort of physical activity. And even if you might not be able to do the physical activity, I'm sure there's something else you can do, something that keeps you very present,
Right.
that doesn't give you the time to think about, or to is it you, if you're playing soccer, you're looking at the ball. If you're doing yoga, yeah, you're thinking about it, but it's calming you. That is the only way we are going to always be in control of our minds, and no AI will take over.
You know, it kind of makes me kind of extend the topic about social media. How do you think you would have handled your situation today if you were young Patricia Velasquez back then 20, 30 years ago,
Wow.
and on this journey? I mean, how do you think that you would have, how do you think that would have affected your decision today in today's
I
world?
think,
What do you think?
well, I think obviously, if you're going into the negative path of what can happen, and you're looking at just one side of the spectrum
Mhm.
of how people think against being gay, that can be very damaging. But I also believe that there is a very good side out there, of a community that it doesn't care, that is normal, that doesn't judge. And the great thing about social media now, and if somebody feels that they are in the need of telling their truth, doesn't have to be about your sexuality, it can be
Mhm.
something else.
Right.
You have a community out there that can help you, guide you, and support you. We didn't have that,
Mm.
or at a young age. So that can be a very big advantage.
So your siblings, or at least one of your sisters, knew, or they suspected, your truth. How did they not go to your mom at the time? I mean, because they kept it
Well,
secret for you, right? But I mean, but they
yeah.
they suspected until you told them, and then you're like, oh yeah, we knew.
Um, I love my brothers and sisters so much,
Right.
and I think I really lucked out with my family,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a respect for each other, and they didn't say anything out of respect. That's it. They
It's just
just
like
thought
we're
it's
gonna
not my
let her
place.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my place. It's not my
Right.
place. And by the way, I was way older when I told them. It's what,
Right.
30 something. So
Yeah.
it was. maybe 30. I don't remember how old I was, but I was definitely at a later age. So yeah, they were just, and they still are. We all have a great respect for each other. So I was I was very blessed. I am very blessed to have the family that I have.
That's great. Let's talk about. I'm curious because I had never heard of the Wayu people until I read your
Uh-huh.
book. So, kind of taught the audience a little bit about who the Wayu people are, because that's your background, right?
Yeah. So my mom is from an indigenous community named
Hmm.
Wayu. And this is an indigenous community of about 500,000 people that sits on the border between Venezuela and Colombia.
Okay.
And it's a matriarchal community, really, truly
Hmm.
matriarchal community. My mom grew up there. I didn't. And I wasn't very close to the Wayu people or their customs until later on. Because my dad worked at UNESCO, so the first few years we lived in Paris. Then we went to Mexico, and then when we went back to Venezuela when I was, I think, nine, about nine.
Right.
And I was there until I was seven, just turned 18. So because we were in different countries, speaking different languages, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. I felt like an
Mm.
outsider.
Yeah,
And as
that's what you say.
when I left to work in Europe, and being indigenous, I mean, it was being considered like second class. So it wasn't until I started working as a model that I went to Milan and then Spain, and then I arrived to Paris, and I was still not very much aware that my indigenous features were indeed what was going to give me the success.
Hmm.
There was one instance where I had just arrived to Paris, and I hear of a fashion show that was going to be thrown by the Rainforest Foundation to help the
Right.
indigenous communities in the Amazon. That it's led by Sting and Trudy Styler,
Mm.
and Gianni Versace was going to be doing the show. So I went to the agency in my broken English and I said, "Me show," but nobody knew me, right?
Hmm.
And the agent said, "No, no, no." So I went back to the apartment, and then the phone rang, and she said that they have reconsidered, and that yes, that I could go to the show, but I will have to pay for it myself. And I
Okay.
didn't have any money.
Right.
All the supermodels were getting paid to go there. I've never been in the UK. So I said, but I have to be there. But it was more because of the opportunity for work. And maybe it was the first time that I felt no one is indigenous but me. I had to be on that show.
Right.
So I put myself in debt to go to London. I booked myself into a hostel with my feet sticking out of the bed in a shared bathroom.
Hmm. Hmm.
I arrived into the show, and there were all the supermodels. And normally, there was Linda and Naomi. They were all there,
Hmm.
and Versace, bigger than life. And when you walk up and down the runway in a regular show, you might have four exits, means four times you walk up and down
Right.
the runway, or five or six, but that's pretty much it. Um, I had one. They all had five. But it didn't matter. I was still there. I did the show. But when
Right.
I got back to the hotel, I sat in my tiny little bed and I felt terrible. I felt that I had done all that effort and nobody saw me. I didn't I felt unseen. But what I remember was those 60 seconds when I got to walk up and down that runway. It was incredible what I felt. It was like generations of women walking alongside me in a
Mm-hmm.
in a in a place where they have never been before. So in the midst of my sadness for having made all that effort, I remember what I felt those 60 seconds. And that moment changed my life because it's the first time in my life that I felt proud of being indigenous. So I went back to Paris, and that really changed my life. I went back to Paris, and because I was so proud of my indigenous features, then Karl Lagerfeld noticed me, and then the rest of history. I became a
Right.
supermodel.
So didn't they try to get you to change your eyes because you were, I guess, too indigenous looking? Didn't I read that correctly in the book?
Yeah, yeah. They told me that I should, but I thank God I didn't.
Thank God you didn't. Thank God you didn't.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go to the beginning of the book because you talk the story you tell at the beginning of the book. I don't get too much information away, but you went to a concert, right, with your sister, and kind
Yes.
of fell in love with was I guess the bassist,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah,
that whole
I did.
story.
Yeah, that's how it all started. I was very
Yeah.
young. I was 15 years old. And I went to this concert in my city of Maracaibo, and there was this very famous Spanish band playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with this guy, with the bass player. And I had to get to him.
Right.
So he noticed me. He looked at me. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you the whole story because
Right.
we want
Right.
to read
Right.
the book. But what I
Sure.
can tell you is that it's amazing how a lot of something very, very important happened that night in
Mm-hmm.
those choices that we make when we're very young. And I am very lucky to be alive today to tell that story because it
Right.
was the most traumatic night of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It, but interestingly, this guy, this musician, who wasn't with me that night, by the way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he wrote me a letter and said, "No, you're too young. I like you, but you're too young." And
Mm-hmm.
now I look back and I respect him so much for it that
Right.
he could have taken advantage of me, but no, not at all. And a musician, famous, no, you're too young. And then later on, when I turned an adult, here I am living in Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and then he ends up being my boyfriend.
Right.
I was already an
Incredible.
adult.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, here's the thing. Again, please go buy the book. But there's another story. I'm not going to tell the details, but you went to go to meet him at the airport, and you missed your
Yeah.
flight, and that was a whole
Yes.
like when I tell you, listeners, this story that she tells about that night, I couldn't. It was like something out of a movie. It was like something
Can
out
I
of a
tell
movie
you?
scene.
You
Yes.
know that story. So I wrote the book for well, with I dedicated it to my mom and my daughter,
Right. Right.
and I wanted my mom to read it
Mm-hmm.
because she never knew that story. And after I wrote the book, I have not let her read it.
Really,
I have not let her read it. Mm-mm.
it
She
was
has
the
not
most
read it,
incredible thing I'd
and she
read.
wanted to. And it just makes you think, me having a daughter now, and our kids, the things that we do, the things that you do when you're young, when you're driven by passion, by passion, by innocence, really, you just have to really know, wow, the universe was definitely with me that night.
Oh gosh, was it? I mean, God bless. I mean, that I mean, again, when you read the book, you won't believe it. You will not believe that
Mm,
evening. Talk about your father real quick because your father
mhm.
was away a lot for work, right?
Yeah,
And I think what I gathered was that you were, I guess, at the time too young to understand that he was, I guess, trying to provide a life for you all, but
mhm.
you didn't really understand at that time. I guess maybe there's a little resentment because he was gone so much, but he was really trying to work and try to put food on the table for you, for the family. Is that
Yeah, well,
correct?
yeah, we were seven brothers and sisters.
Right.
And when we lived in France and when we lived in Mexico the first few years of my life, we had a wonderful life. And it was when we went back to Venezuela that things got very challenging.
Mhm.
Trying to, make means in education is it's almost impossible.
Right.
Um, so yeah, he wasn't around very much, but he did the best he could. I don't I don't have any resentment at all
Hmm.
nowadays. Quite
Hmm.
the opposite. I sympathize with a lot of his actions and try to understand also that there were different generations, and he has dementia now, so he doesn't remember
Okay.
much.
Right.
But he did the best he could. He was never a bad dad or anything. He just was not around very much.
Right. Gotcha. Um, so again, going back to your mother was really your driving force to do what you did. You were driven to make a life for your mother. Um, when you were trying to get into, I guess, the Miss Venezuela contest.
Mhm.
What did she say to you about when you told her that you wanted to start modeling? What was her reaction to you, her feeling towards that?
Well, so after the Miss Venezuela, for me, I mean, so there were two things. This question I'll answer in two ways,
Okay.
actually two different moments. Um, the idea that I will go to the Miss Venezuela, as we said, me being Wayu Indian, no,
Mm-hmm.
who wins the Miss Venezuela, you'll have to be. Usually, there was a tendency of being Caucasian or whiter skin, but I wanted to help my family so much. We start college earlier there. So I
Mm-hmm.
started college when I had just, I was about to turn 16 years old. So I was studying to become an engineer. And my
Okay.
friend said to me, but look, if you go to the Miss Venezuela, you're helping, you talk about helping your family, you really will be able to help them because it's not this way anymore. But think many years ago, being in the Miss Venezuela was the equivalent of the Super Bowl. I mean, the whole
Right.
country will shut down. There was no doubt a trampoline to opportunities. So I just thought about what my friend said because first I was like, no, I don't agree with how their idea of beauty and their surgeries, and I don't agree with any of that. Uh, and then I thought, but wait a minute, I don't have to win. I don't want to win. I
Mm.
just have to get in. So I talked to my mom, and she said, "Well, Mija, how are you going to pay for the dresses and the, and I mean, and look how you look. You don't look like what they like."
Mm-hmm.
But I said, my friend will lend me because I had a friend who had been in the contest, and my friend will lend me some dresses, and anyway, she ended up agreeing. But after, well, not only I remember the day well, I'm not going to go into that,
Right.
but not only I got in, I was second runner up.
Right.
And
Right.
then after that, this agent came from an agency in Milan called Why Not? A wonderful guy named Vittorio Seviani. He came to Venezuela and he was choosing one girl and one guy, and I got chosen to go to Milan. So here now, keep in mind, there was no internet, no cell phones, and human trafficking was already a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And first we had to check if is this a legit agency. So how do I then go to my mom and said, Mom, please let me go. I'm getting this contract. But it was we had to, and it's not like I had tons of money to check and start calling Milan. Remember, it was very expensive calling
Right.
other countries.
Exactly.
But we were able to check through friends, and we checked that it was legit. And after that, the agent came to my town and spoke to my mom, and she was still going, but Mija, we're going to be so far away, and I'm not going to be able to communicate with you. And how you going? And I was, but I knew that if I was going to send $30 a month, that was going to pay water for the whole building.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no doubt in my
Mm.
mind that I had to go.
Right.
So finally, I went to Milan. I didn't speak the language, but I spoke Spanish, so it's not so far from Italian. And she let me go, and that was the beginning of my career. Yeah.
So you talk about the trafficking. You said that right when you got to Milan, you said that you were pretty much swarmed by men, right?
Yes, for
Was
sure.
there? Yeah, I mean, what was there a danger in the possibility of them trying to traffic you at all? Did you ever feel that danger, or was it just, oh, here's just a beautiful woman, just harmless, men just hitting on
No,
you, that sort of thing?
I didn't feel that I was going to be trafficked in Italy. No, no. The agency, I just felt during that time there was no such a thing as work permits for models. Now
Okay.
that exists. The business changed a lot. So basically, you will go into the countries kind of like with a tourist visa. You will work and you pay full on taxes. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
pay 50% in taxes.
Mm.
France did have working permit, but the other countries didn't. So there was a thing when you were going to these countries, and we travel a lot, that you didn't know if the guys were going to let you through customs or not. And I
Okay.
saw many girls being sent back, many girls. This all has changed now, by the way. Now there are permits now, and nobody was like trying to take any money away. No, we all pay our taxes. It was very specific. And if there was a permit, like it ultimately happened in France, everybody got their permits. But
Right.
you always were on guard, and you always had to kind of flirt with them a little bit so they let you through. But I saw many girls being sent back to their countries.
Mm.
And when I lived in Japan, it was so foreign then, and I hardly spoke any English. So I was 19, and I was there for a few months. I felt it's crazy because Japan is one of the safest countries in the world through history, right?
Right.
But I don't know why I did feel a little bit unsafe there. I
Hmm.
did feel the human trafficking thing more there in such a safe place than I actually did in some of the other countries.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was going to
But I
ask you
think that
about.
was maybe more, that's my fear. I don't, it wasn't real, obviously. It was so safe.
Yeah, 'cause I was going to ask you about Japan and just how how you thought that you would fit into the culture there. But you pretty much answered the question right there.
Yeah,
So
but
so.
I tell you that I love being in Japan, and
Hmm.
I learned so much from them. I love that culture. I love that country, and they taught me so much. They taught me a couple things I remember is that they really use the clock. My
Hmm.
appointments
Right.
were you're gonna go on the subway at 9:47, and you're gonna get there at 10:13. Someone's gonna pick you up at 10:17, and then you're gonna write like they really use the clock.
Like everything
And
down
that
to the minute, the
to
exact
the
minute.
sec, yeah, it was unbelievable. They work extremely hard, and I also remember that thanks to them, I have been there for a few months, and this agent that had taken me there, she said before I was supposed to leave, she said, "I'm going to pay you today, your contract." I mean, because
Mm.
you had you made if you
Right.
so you have a contract, right? But then you could make more money, but you had a base contract. That was incredible for me. And so when you get there the first week, you will be taken to 20 castings per day, and you will have to have booked 5 jobs by the end of the week. And if
Mm.
you book 5 jobs, then you get to stay. If not, and the contract starts. If not, you get sent back. So I was the only one of all those girls that stayed. And then after a few months being working, she said to me, "I'm going to pay you your contract today." And I thought, why? So something happened with the stock market. Basically, I was going to triple the money. And she just had it. I would have never even known about that. And
Wow.
that's the money that I was able to use to get my mom's new place in Venezuela, where there was water and there were working elevators.
Besides providing for your mother's being the driving force to your success, what do you think made you successful as a model?
Well, I many things. Definitely, the first thing was my desire to help my family,
Hmm.
because that kept me very focused. That kept me
Mm.
even there was a year where I was living in the year that I was living in Spain, that you read in the book. I did a lot of drugs for a year,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I lost a very big opportunity, and it was the first time that I got called for that opportunity,
Hmm.
and I felt like, what are you doing? Your family is back in Venezuela without water, and this is what you're doing. So that made me stop. So definitely to have, and now if you're listening to this, is if you have a purpose. What is that purpose? Doesn't have to be help your family, by the way. That was just my purpose, but that purpose kept me very focused all throughout the years. The second thing is I was a dancer. I grew up as a dancer, so
Hmm.
i was I was a, like you wonder, well, how is it possible that a model that wasn't as tall as like Kate Moss, for example, will be so successful? It's because she's an extraordinary model. She knew how to move and use the camera and moved her body in a way that was incredible. And I think that's what happened to me. Because I was a dancer, I knew how to move my body in a way where, you understand the lines, you understand the energy without having to make a dance movement.
Right.
And so that a person who doesn't have hasn't had experience on movement and dancing might not show and project the same. So I think that definitely helped me a lot. And of course, discipline. I
Hmm.
was not the model that arrived late. I was always, even though we were supermodels, I always arrived on time.
Hmm.
I was always kind. And this is all for you who are listening, don't underestimate the power of kindness. Kindness is the
Amen.
secret of success. When and now just jumping a little bit to the Mummy and the Mummy Returns. When I met with the casting director, all I remember is that she was so kind,
Hmm.
and she made me be kind back. And then when I hear that I'm going to be going to London, here I go. I arrived to the studio Shepperton's in London, in Richmond, and there were pyramids being built, and I'm doing ancient Egyptian lines, but at
Hmm.
the center of it was Brendan Fraser. He was at the center of it with his extraordinary kindness. And what happens when you have a lead, a center that is that way?
Hmm.
Everyone else behaves the same way because it's contagious. So when I came back, yes, I have worked. I have worked really hard. It had made me a Latina actor, that
Hmm.
now represents a bigger community. But really, the lesson that I learned is no one is better than you, and you are no better than anybody. And kindness is the way to win, always.
I concur about Brendan Fraser. I actually met him at a Comic Con probably 3 or 4 years ago in Dallas, Texas, and he
Mhm.
could not have been sweeter. I mean, he's incredibly nice, and I'm
Yeah.
so happy for his success. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I concur with that. He was incredibly nice. Um,
Yeah.
there's a clip. It's funny you talk about kindness. This is perfect timing. There's a clip I saw last night. Billy Bob Thornton, and
Hmm.
he was talking about, and it was a wonderful clip. Staying on kindness. He was talking about how celebrities sometimes treat their fans, right? And he talked about, hey, the fans put food on my table. The fans help pay my bills. It's not a big deal for me to be nice, to say hello, to take a picture, to sign an autograph. And I thought that was an incredible thing for him to say because,
Hmm.
you don't really hear a lot of celebrities talk about that or actually acknowledge that. But I just found that, just he just had so much character in that response,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's wonderful. I think in general, at least actors, we actors are very kind, because
Mm-hmm.
we are also, I mean, the work that we do is very internal.
Mm-hmm.
We spend a lot of time by ourselves. We create. We're in our sets, and even though it looks like we have these, yeah, sometimes we do. We have these big lives, but we really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires a lot of quietness, a lot of contemplation,
Right.
and in general, actors, we are very kind.
My mother, she passed away 3 years ago. Be 3 years ago this coming January. And again, staying on the topic of kindness for a second, because it kind of, that reminded me of my mother because she was the sweetest. I mean, you can't find anyone to say one negative thing about my mom. When she passed away, I felt like just immediately, like I started kind of channeling her, and I feel like I kind of
Oh,
softened up a bit as a person. Yeah, I mean, I've always
wow.
been a nice person, but I feel
Uh,
like I just really softened up even more after she passed away. And I feel like I just by nature, I channel her more when I interact with
wow.
people, because,
That's
you
very
talked
sweet.
about, how kindness, can rub off. That, reminded me of that.
Wow, that's very sweet. Very
Yeah,
sweet. Wow.
yeah.
Oh.
Um, what was I gonna, oh, you talk about, and going back to the book, you talk about going back to your mom's house one night during Christmas, and you called it, I think, like a transportation tunnel. What do you mean by that? Just being back at her house for Christmas in the
Um,
book.
you mean in Venezuela? I don't
Yes, yes,
remember.
Venezuela. Yeah. You just the experience of being back there because you hadn't, had the conversation with her yet. Because I think you were
Yeah,
still contemplating it, and just being back there, I guess, kind of brought
yeah,
you back to, your roots, I guess, being back there.
yeah. It was. I mean, I think I remember being in London or
Mhm.
London. Then went to New York, took the plane, and went to Margarita Island, which is where she was. And um, when we go back to the places where we have been as younger people,
Mhm.
um, we become those people. It's like when you're with your brothers or sisters, you become
Right.
brother and sister, and you fight the same. And
Right.
um, and, and definitely, I remember looking outside. I actually called an ambulance, and I did write this in the book. And I
Yeah.
had an ambulance waiting outside because I thought she might had a heart attack, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I guess that's. I'm not sure how I'm answering that question.
No, yeah,
I'm
no,
not sure I
that's
remember.
perfectly fine. That's
Mm,
perfectly fine. Also, you kind of described yourself. You used the term weirdo. Why did
mhm.
you think that you were a weirdo?
I think I think we're all weirdos in
Hmm.
somehow, right? We're
Hmm.
all um
Me,
I,
definitely, for sure.
yeah, maybe it's my use of the language. I feel that it's more feeling like an outsider,
Okay.
feeling that because first I'm in France and we're from Venezuela, then we're in Mexico, but we're speaking French because we're little. Then we go back to Venezuela, and we are Venezuelans, but we speak with a different accent. So I've always felt like a weirdo. I always felt like an outsider, uh, that I don't belong anywhere. Now I feel very different. Now I feel that I love being an outsider. I love being a weirdo. And I understand now that everyone is somehow. And the people that, even as we're growing up, they're the populars at the school. And I couldn't tell the kids where I lived because we were going to a very wealthy school because we were on scholarship because my parents
Right.
were on education. But what we couldn't tell them where we lived. But even I look back, those kids that were the popular kids were having their own struggles,
Hmm.
and you just don't know, all right? You just don't know, but everybody
Right.
has their struggle. It just always look exactly going back to what you said at the beginning. It always looks like the pretty picture of social media.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
everybody has their struggles, and what we have is our reality,
Right.
and we should and we must try to make that reality the best as possible. And the key, I believe that the key for it is gratitude. It's
Hmm.
hard, but gratitude is the biggest. I don't know that I should use this word, but gratitude is the biggest weapon
Mm,
for everything.
I agree.
If you're sad, if you're happy, if you are challenged, if you're uncertain, if you are, it's, what I like for me, even like just, I mean, this might work for some of you who are listening,
Mhm.
especially now with menopause. You get woken up at night, you don't know
Mm,
because you're a guy, so you know. But for us women, you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 in the morning and you're up, and
mhm.
you're up, you can't sleep. And then your brain starts thinking all these negative things, and you can't stop it. You know that it's not real. You know that it's happening because of menopause, but that doesn't stop the feeling. That
Mhm.
doesn't stop the feeling of all these negative thoughts. I find that the cure for all of this, cure or weapon, two things of the same, right? Is gratitude. I start going, I'm thankful for this pillow. I'm thankful for the sheets. I'm thankful for this blanket. I'm thankful that it's nice. I'm thankful that, and you just immediately, it's incredible how it calms you down. You might not
Yeah.
believe
Oh
it, but
yeah.
eventually you end up believing it. So I use this, and it really has helped me tremendously at every level. Every time I'm anxious, every time I'm angry, every time I'm grateful. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the floor. I'm grateful that it's raining. I'm
Right.
just, and it really.
Well, I think gratitude gives you perspective too. Going back to, I'm glad you talked about gratitude. Going back to my mother, the night before her funeral. Not to get dark, but he just made me think of
Mhm.
this again. We had the family over, and I had my great nieces, who were, I think, maybe 4 and or maybe 4 and 2 at the time, and they came in from out of town. Being around them and the family, that was my big gratitude moment, and it put things in
Uh,
perspective that, hey, you know what, I'm going through this awful we all are going through this awful time right now, but we're all together in the moment.
right,
And that's what I was
right.
so grateful for, and that's what really
Wow,
kind of helped me get through it, right? So I'm
wow.
glad you talked about gratitude. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Keep it. So you talked about struggles. So you were the first Latina model on the cover of CoverGirl, correct?
Yeah, so I was the first Latina supermodel, period. That's what they
Period.
say.
Right. Right.
Every
Period.
but CoverGirl was extraordinary because they get so they've hired some Latino models before, but it
Hmm.
was for the Latino media.
Right.
So with me, it was the first time, and I would say probably, if not the first company that hired a Latina model
Okay.
for the mainstream. So it was Tyra Banks, Nikki Taylor, and myself.
Mm.
And then I think later on Queen Latifah, and they
Hmm.
just kept growing it. But I
Right.
had that for 8 years, and it was wonderful,
The
wonderful.
reason the reason why I ask is because when you landed that job, did you have time, or did you spend any time at all kind of reflecting back on the struggles leading up to that point? What was it? Did it serve any kind of validation for everything that you had been through in your life leading up to that moment?
Um, yeah, yeah, definitely. But so I'm going to tell you one time I was walking on 16th Street and 8th Avenue in New York,
Hmm.
and out of nowhere, this girl threw herself at me, and I almost pushed her away.
Hmm.
And she started crying, and she said, You saved my life. I'm like, What? Yeah, you saved my life because I've never seen anyone that looked like me in the cover of a magazine
Mm.
and in movies. And I stayed thinking about this, and I thought, wow, this is really incredible. So now this is not just about helping my family. This is this ripple, as we said before, is expanding. Now is about helping a community.
Hmm.
So once I got a hold of that thought and I registered in my heart what had happened with that girl, I understood that I wasn't just working at that point now to continue to be a supermodel and
Hmm.
that was it. I had a responsibility
Mm.
because
Hmm.
I understood how big it was.
Right.
So then that kind of carried me forward. So when CoverGirl came and I said, I would like to, what is it gonna take for you to come with CoverGirl? And we said, well, because L'Oreal was also interested in giving us a contract. So we thought, I would like to be able to develop a program for the Hispanic community. And
Hmm.
CoverGirl was so amazing. They went back and they developed, took a few months, and they developed a program called Colors of Success,
Hmm.
where I would go to the poorest schools in the United States and I will speak to them about how the importance of their heritage. So in regards to your question, it's not that I was thinking, wow, how hard it has been. Even up until today, I don't think I've ever had that thought.
Mm.
I don't take time to think about, wow, how far I've come. Because every achievement that I've gotten has also taken a lot of effort. And there have been, look, even in the movie world,
Hmm.
you do huge movies like The Mummy Returns, then, yeah, Mindhunter's huge. Then many years go by until you get another blockbuster. The Curse of La Llorona took what, 14 years to
Hmm.
get another huge blockbuster. And then you always think, okay, well, that's it. I'm done. That's it. I don't have to audition anymore. I don't, and it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to keep, you have to keep in the fight. You have to give. So there's no, I don't process things like going, oh, I have achieved, or how important it's more, I'm trying to be present, and like
Hmm.
now with the work of the foundation, how can I help?
Right.
How can we send humanitarian aid into Latin America? So I'm more distracted and present on the moment than actually thinking and reflecting, oh, how much I know. Because I don't I don't feel that way. I don't feel I'm compared to so many people that I have around, and
Hmm.
this is something else that maybe you can take with you home, is surround. I made this decision a few years ago, which is I decided to have people not to have. So if you're in my life, it's because I admire you.
Hmm.
That's it. I only surround myself with people that I admire for many
Hmm.
reasons. Maybe because you're a great human being, because of whatever it is that you do, because of your profession. I have to admire you.
Right.
So when I compare, because we all do, myself to some of the people that I have around me, I don't feel like I have achieved very much yet.
Hmm.
And that keeps
Hmm.
me motivated to try and get and accomplish more.
You told a really that's amazing, and you told a really nice story in another interview, kind of speaking on the inspirational vibe here. There was you talked about a little girl who uses the Mummy, the movie, to calm
Oh, yeah.
herself. That just can you just tell
Yeah.
that story real quick? That's such a great story.
She's so beautiful. I can't remember her name, but I have her on
Mhm.
Instagram. Uh, Beautiful girl, and if she reminded me of my daughter very much. And she just said she came with her sister and her mom, and she told me that when she was about 5 years old, she would sneak behind the couch, and her parents will weekly watch The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. And she learned all the lines of Anxunamun, and at that point she had not been diagnosed. And later on, later on, and she would just do that. And her sister says, yeah,
Mhm.
she would do that all the time. So when she went to the doctor, they took her to the doctor because the parents saw that there was something that wasn't okay with her mentally. And the doctor said, is there anything that you do when your mind goes wandering? What, how do you calm yourself down? And she said, I recite all the lines from Anuksunamun. And the doctor said, okay, well,
Mm.
if that works, then you do it. And she's done it her whole life. She knows every single line of the movie that I don't.
But
It
here's the
was
kicker, though:
remarkable.
the lines are not in English.
No, oh, yeah,
That's the kicker.
exactly. Sorry, I didn't say that. No, the lines
Yeah.
are in Egyptian, ancient
Hmm.
Egyptian. And she went on to say so many of those lines, and she meant it. Everything she said was real. I thought, wow, this is incredible, and this is a beautiful, beautiful girl. This is incredible. How sometimes the work that we do affect people again. What we were saying before.
Right.
The effect of our actions always ripples. It might be that person who might see something in you that they
Hmm.
don't see in themselves,
Right.
and or something as incredible as this. Uh, Amazing.
I can tell you, I got one final question. I want to respect your time, but this has been amazing. This is beyond
Amazing.
expectation. This has been amazing. This is
For me
wonderful. My final question, I like to ask every guest this, and it's called Brutal Truth. And Patricia, I would like to know, when it comes to trying to make it in Hollywood, to making it
too.
in the modeling business, what is your brutal truth to anyone who is trying to pursue a career in Hollywood or as a model? And this is an opportunity for you to not even hold back, just speak your truth.
Yeah. So let me start with modeling because it's very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Modeling, you have to have a look. You have to have a look. You either have it or you don't. You can cultivate it or no. You either have it or you don't. And I don't know how and why people lie to themselves and they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have it, you don't have it. If you have it, you have it. And trust me, you will be let know that you have it by people around you, by agents that will stop you on the street, in the places you less think about. And if you don't have it, you're gonna be told right away. And you should listen. You should look at yourself in the mirror and say, by the way, there are all kinds of models. You don't have to have
Mm-hmm.
one specific look. So then you will ask, well, what is the look? Well, I don't know, but it's a look. You know. And by the way, we do know. You see someone and you go, oh, wow. Yeah, whether it's a specific type of beauty, something that is weird, something that is, in the idea of gorgeous beauty, or you just know. So that for the modeling part. Now for the acting part, this is a really, really hard business. And I am a very positive person. Okay. There's so many things I can say about the
Mm-hmm.
acting part, but if you are in this business because you want to be famous, or you want to be successful, or you want to be rich, you will probably fail. If you are in this business, it's because you love the craft.
Mm-hmm.
It is true that we are in an industry where it doesn't happen in Europe. In the US, it's kind of like you're as good as your last picture. They say they
Mm-hmm.
say this a lot. But if you are really indeed in the business because you're in love with the craft, it's always going to keep you healthy,
Right.
it's going to keep you creative, it's going to keep you in love with what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you are just, because of what you want to obtain from it, you will probably fail.
Mm.
So think about it before you jump into it. And I'm going to tell you a couple more because I think it's important. The other thing is,
Please.
you can admire other people, but don't compare yourself to others, because everybody has a different journey and everyone is typecasted. Everybody, even the most, Nicole Kidman type is
Mm-hmm.
typecasted.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is typecasted. So don't go into the excuse of like, yeah, I'm typecasted, because at the end that just becomes a reason to be in the negativity. And
Right.
then the last thing is, we have such an incredible we have such an incredible means now to develop content. Don't
Mm-hmm.
wait for other people to come and tell you or give you the job.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you don't need a huge budget to make your own projects. Create your own story, create your own characters, use social media. This is when social media can be very beneficial, and put your content out there because somebody will notice it. And now you don't even need for people to notice, for some specific people to notice it, when you can create your own content and
Right.
actually earn an income from it. But let don't and then my final one is kind of related to the first one. Don't depend on the business side of acting or directing, or in this movie world or TV world. um, don't depend on it to pay your bills.
Mm,
That is
mm,
then probably
okay.
I will probably put this one number one,
Hmm.
a number one, because what happens when you are, I see it all the time. If you're fortunate enough to then start working so much that that you can pay your bills, and it's great, but don't put all the weight into that, because the way it comes out on your performance, you are stressed, you are not enjoying it, and it becomes a vicious cycle that can be very
Hmm.
damaging.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a brutal truth response right there. I love
yeah.
it. So I've got my SAG card. I got into acting some time ago. I've got my union card. I have an agent here, and it's funny when you talked about how don't get into it for the fame, to be famous, all that stuff. When I went to my agent, met my agent for the first time, they said, "Okay, we're going to interview you. You need to do 2 monologues and all that." So I did the monologues. We did the interview. First question she asked, "Why do you want to be an actor?" I said, "'Cause I want to
Mhm.
work." I mean, that seemed like the only logical answer to me. I want to work. And she said, "I'm glad you said that, because I can't tell you how many people I have coming in here telling me, honestly, that they want to be famous."
Yeah,
And and
yeah.
and she
And
signed me right there because that answer, because my response, she signed me right there.
the real work. And you know what, there's also no judgment. Like, there's no judgment
Right,
in wanting to be, because that's what you've been told all the time, wanting to be famous,
right,
wanting to be. No, but I'm telling you, let this, like, when you're working, should not be like you're working. Success should come because of what you love doing it.
right.
And it's so great. I mean, before we couldn't put content out on our, now we are in complete control. We are in control. That's
Hmm.
amazing. So
Right.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fall and make a mistake. Like, I've done some big movies, and I've done some movies that are terrible, and I don't care. I'm creating.
Hmm.
Who,
Right,
I'm not going to do that movie. Why? I love the story. If I love the story, I don't care. If I
right.
like the story, I like the role, I do it. If it's successful, great. If it isn't, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not. Don't worry so much. Just enjoy the moment. This
Before I
is
let you
this can be a very great thing. Yeah.
Before I let you go, real quick, staying in acting, you mentioned that you worked with Philip Seymour Hoffman, who we all know was
Yeah.
the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was just a gem. What was the biggest lesson that you learned from him on set?
Oh, yeah. I think you know which one it is, but thank you for asking me that
Hmm.
question.
Hmm.
So, I hold Phil so dear in my heart because of everything I learned from him. We did that play called School of the Americas at the
Hmm.
Public Theater in New York that he produced. And Jose Rivera, who wrote Motorcycle Diaries and was nominated for the Academy Award, then he went and wrote
Hmm.
the School of the Americas. So I remember that I can't believe I did this. I would never do this today. But I was so afraid of, doing such a big play and being the lead with, but anyway, so I hold back. I hold back from a few scenes so I could explode in this last scene. And when I try to explode in the last scene, I didn't get there. I didn't get there. It was so embarrassing.
Hmm.
Um, and when we finished, I went backstage and Phil was sitting there, and he was just sitting there, and I just sat and I said, I messed up. I just messed up. I hold back because I was gonna give it my all, and it just didn't happen. And he said, Patricia, never hold back. Not for a rehearsal, not for a, never hold back. And I took those words too hard, and I
Hmm.
never hold back. I never hold back because this is what happened. It's a muscle. It's a
Hmm.
muscle. So the more you go, the deeper you will go. So why you hold it?
Right.
So and we see that a lot. People say, okay, no, I'm just holding, I'm just holding, I'm rehearsing, and I don't go into details. I don't go into it. But
Hmm.
my advice is never, never, never hold back. Go full on. every time. Yeah, if you're really tired, obviously, if you're extremely emotional, it's better if you do less times,
Hmm.
if you do it less times, but go full on, than if you do it more times and you're holding back. Because it is a muscle. So the deeper you go, the deeper you will find things. And
And that
yeah,
applies to anything in life. Just go
anything.
full on, full on.
Full on. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah.
Patricia, where can people buy your wonderful book?
Oh, that's so kind that you're talking about the book.
Yeah.
On Amazon. Yeah, you can get
Okay.
it on Amazon. I used
Okay.
to have it on my website, but it's too complicated. So yeah, just get it on Amazon, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. People
Thank
want
you
to
so
find.
much, and I really hope that
Yeah.
I really hope that there's some bookstores that have it as well. But I mean, I
Okay.
published a book a few years ago, so I don't know which bookstores it is, but it's definitely in quite a few bookstores.
And I've got my
And
signed
the
copy. Thank
book,
you. I got my signed
yeah.
copy. Thank you.
Thank you. The book sells very well,
Hmm.
and it's in Spanish too. And again, uh, my only purpose is to inspire you to live your truth, whatever that truth might be. And remember, you're not alone and you matter.
Let me tell you, you are one of the loveliest people I've ever met, inside and out. And this was such an incredible experience. You are truly living a life of service, which is what I think the world needs, more people living a life of service to others. And you are certainly doing that 100%.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you
Let me
too
tell
with the,
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Let me tell you this. So, next time I come out to LA, which is going to be soon, I want to connect with you and Carmen. I would like to take y'all lunch, dinner, wherever you want to go, as a thank you for both of y'all being
That's so
incredible.
great.
I would love to do that. I'm going to be out there soon. I will stay in touch, and it would be my honor and privilege to get to speak with you even more, off camera. And but I will
Absolutely. Just
definitely
reach
stay in
out.
touch.
Would love to.
Absolutely.
Would love to. And
Well,
keep up the work with the show. It's a wonderful space.
thank you
I
so
hope you get
much.
many, people to tell their truth.
Thank you so much. Well, you've been wonderful. All my best to you. God bless. And I'll hopefully get to talk to you very soon. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Take
Thank you.
care. So, if that wasn't one of the most revealing conversations that you ever heard, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what could be, but um, just the grace that Patricia Velasquez showed in this experience, her openness, just how revealing her stories were, how inspirational she is, and the life of service that she lives. That she should, to me, she's a role model, and for so many reasons, obviously. But I beg you to read the book. Again, it's called Straight Walk, and you're going to learn so much of some of the stories that we didn't go into detail that were absolutely incredible. You're going to see those stories in detail. Trust me. And as you read the book again, you're going to see just how big of a heart that she had. And then I truly believe that, her driving force again was her mother, taking care of her family, her people, and every decision, everything that she did along her journey was with serving others and bettering people's lives. And you just saw the entire conversation, and you saw what kind of a person she is. This is, again, I met her briefly for a couple of minutes back here in Houston, and I immediately got the vibe that she was just such a pleasant, incredible woman, and you got to see that, and this just validated and confirmed everything for me here and for all of you. So, as far as a memoir, this is exactly what you want from a memoir. And I mean, she bears all. She sheds her skin. I mean, she's, to use lack of a better word, she's completely naked in this story about her life. And so when you read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But and to me, this book, I'm speaking from my heart. I'm not really using my notes here. I had a bunch of notes for the conclusion, but I'm just so inspired right now by her story and just her vibe. When you read this book, you're going to see that this can also serve as a manual, a life manual for a lot of people. No matter what kind of situation in your life, you read this book, and she's been through it all. She's absolutely been through it all. So please go buy the book. Go on Amazon, buy it again. It's called Straight Walk. And I can't wait to connect with her again and just talk more, because I know there's so much more about life that I want to talk to her about that I didn't get to. I want to respect her time. But, man, this was absolutely – I'm kind of speechless right now. I'm just all amped up because this was just everything I hoped for and more. So anyway, my thanks as always to my guy, Quincy Whetstone, Q Stone here at Sacred Stone Studios in Houston, Texas, my hometown. Always does an incredible job for me. And of course, a huge thank you once again to the enchanting Patricia Velasquez. What an experience, and I'm truly, truly grateful for you, Patricia. And as always, thank you for listening. Please share the show, and you can catch the podcast on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, the Tommy Dinos Podcast. Happy Thanksgiving coming up in a week to all of you. And remember, if you want it to happen, if you want life to happen the way you want it, you've got to go get it. God bless.
I'm pushing the limit. I'm pushing the limit. I'll take it as far as I can go. So let's go. Whoa.